Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, OP and his girlfriend, together since high school. After discovering her intimate photos and videos shared in NSFW Discord servers and her plan to meet and sleep with another man at a convention, he felt betrayed. He moved out, shared evidence of her actions with the man's girlfriend, and informed her school, leading to her firing. Now let's get into the story. My girlfriend and I had been together since high school. I loved her, and I genuinely thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with her. She and I always had an opposites attract kind of relationship. I'm very outgoing, athletic, and into sports. She's a bit of a nerd. She spends all of her time reading. She gets very involved in internet fandoms, and she isn't as interested in working out. We started dating during the last semester of our senior year in high school when we were paired up in a science lab together. We lived in a small town and I knew who she was, but I hadn't paid much mind to her. I got to talking to her in the lab, and I felt a connection to her that I couldn't really explain. We had been together ever since. We went to different colleges, but we stayed loyal to each other and saw each other as often as possible. After we both graduated, we moved into our first apartment together. We both got jobs. She landed her dream job as a teacher, and I worked at a tech company. We spent a lot of time together, and we tried to share each other's interests. We both had a hard time getting into some of the things the other liked. She was very involved in a lot of online forums and pages dedicated to some of the fandoms she was in. She met a lot of online friends through those places, and she talked to them more than almost anybody else that she knew. My girlfriend had always wanted to try cosplaying. There were a ton of characters that she was interested in, and when a convention was in our area, she decided she wanted to do it. She dressed up and really found that she loved doing it. I ended up going to the convention with her because she was too nervous to go alone. Dozens of people approached her and told her about how much they loved her costume, and she was having the time of her life. After that, she started doing it all the time. Even when there wasn't a convention, she was hyper-fixating on characters she wanted to cosplay as, and she would toy around with makeup and clothes to try and make the costumes. As she got more into cosplaying, I noticed that some of her outfits were a little bit more revealing. They showed off more of her body, and they started turning into hypersexual versions of characters. She took a lot of pictures in them, and she always did, despite how I told her I wasn't comfortable with resharing the images. She told me that they were only being sent to her longtime friends, and that it wasn't anything I should worry about. I trusted her, so I believed what she said. Several months went by, and a large convention was coming to her city. I didn't have a good time at the last convention I attended with her, so I didn't really want to go, but I would have if she wanted me to. She told me that because the convention was a big deal. One of her friends from her Discord group was going to be attending. When I asked about the friend, my girlfriend gave me the name Jamie, which I now know isn't real, and used they/them pronouns when speaking about them. I didn't want to ask outright about them, but my girlfriend had a lot of non-binary and transgender friends, so I kind of assumed that it was something like that. I never thought she was purposefully withholding using the pronouns he/him to try to deceive me. The time came for the convention, and I just assumed that everything was normal between us, and she was meeting up with an online friend. It all seemed very harmless to me. She was rushing around the apartment in the morning, trying to get ready and communicate with her friend to make sure they were on the same page about where to meet. I helped her put some last-minute pieces together for her costume and said goodbye to her before she left. I was lying in bed, thinking about going back to sleep for an hour when I kept hearing notifications go off on her laptop. It was annoying me, so I got up to see what it was. Her laptop was open on her desk in her room like it was 90% of the time. This time, instead of turning her laptop off, she put it to sleep. I rubbed my hand along the trackpad, and it lit up showing me her Discord account. There were dozens of messages in there from people and groups she was in. I was a little bit curious, and I know it was somewhat of an invasion of privacy, but I sat down and took a peek at the server. I saw that she was on countless servers on Discord, which I already knew about, but some of them were NSFGO servers. That was a surprise to me. There were messages popping up on the corner of the screen with people painting her and telling her about how good she looked. I assumed she posted a picture of herself in the cosplay that I helped her with that morning. I clicked on one of the servers that people were tagging her in, and I saw that she posted a picture of herself in the costume. She was standing in front of a bathroom mirror and lifting up her shirt. There were a lot of people in the server saying very explicit things about what they wanted to do to her. I looked through the history she had in it and saw that she had been posting very similar things a lot. Through the server and her private messages, I was able to figure out that the person she was meeting was in fact a guy, and she had every intention of sleeping with him. They were both going to be dressed up in character, and they were going to post a video for the server. I took a lot of screenshots of the things that I found, and I sent all those to myself. While I was doing that, she sent in another picture of her with the guy that she was meeting at the convention. There were people in the server who already knew what was happening, and they were putting in specific requests for things for them to do when they hooked up. It was all really weird. My girlfriend liked a lot of the comments and promised people that they were going to be in for a show. I kept my eye on the server for the rest of the day, curious to see what exactly was going to happen. When I wasn't checking on that, I was packing up my belongings to move out. Even if she wasn't intimate with another man, everything that she was sending to strangers on the internet felt like a violation of our relationship. On top of that, she had hidden all of it away from me, so I felt like she was lying. I got a lot of my things together and prepared to leave by the end of the day. I was going to go crash at a friend's house until I could find another apartment. Towards the end of the day, my girlfriend sent a link to the server for anyone to click on. When I clicked on it, I saw that it was a full intimate tape. She hooked up with the guy that she had gone there with. I didn't understand her motive in making this tape and sending it to all of these people. It was a private link, so it wasn't on any kind of site where she could monetize it. There didn't seem to be a reason other than the fact that she wanted people to watch her. I didn't know what was happening. I felt humiliated, and I wanted to find a way to get back at her for what she did. I wanted to get back at the guy she was with as well. I looked through their messages and figured out who he was and what he did for a living. I found his social media pages and saw that he was in a new relationship with someone back home. I gathered all the information that I could, and I sent the link to the video alongside some screenshots of their conversations to the guy's girlfriend back home. Right away, she read the messages. She responded a couple of hours later thanking me for bringing that to her attention, and I hadn't spoken to her since. I left the apartment that night and didn't plan on going back. My girlfriend returned home later in the evening and sent me dozens of messages asking me about where I was. I didn't respond to them. What I did instead was reach out to the principal of the school she taught for, and I informed them of her online behavior. Because she was a teacher, things like that were prohibited. I knew that what she was doing was likely to cost her her job. A few days after I sent the email, I got a call from the superintendent of schools asking me for more information about it. Eventually, she was fired. She reached out to me countless times and begged me to revoke the statements that I made and tell them that I was just saying it out of spite, but I didn't do that. I wanted her to suffer for what she did. If losing the job she cared so much about was that, so be it. Now I am working and trying to figure out my next steps moving forward. I really did love her, and it's going to take a while for me to get past what happened. Today's second story. In this story, OP's after 6 years of marriage, everything fell apart when he hired a marketing firm, met his future wife, and discovered her affair years later. Despite trust, her secretive relationship with a coworker shattered their bond. He exposed the affair at her company event, leading to divorce. Now, focused on his business, he's hesitant about dating again after the betrayal. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I had been married for 6 years when everything went down the drain. I have my own business and I hired a marketing firm to help me. I scheduled a meeting and I didn't know who was going to be showing up for it. I was sitting in my office and one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen walked in. I knew right away that I needed to date her. I asked her out, but she told me that her company had a strict policy about dating clients. I asked her out a second time I saw her too. I figured if she said no again, I would leave it alone. She did, so I was disappointed. A few days later, I got an email from the firm telling me that my account was being transferred to another representative at the agency. I felt horrible. I thought that I did something to offend the other rep, but shortly after I got a call from her. She told me that she had been really interested in going out with me, so she swapped accounts with a coworker. We went out to dinner, and a year and a half later, she was my wife. I genuinely thought I was the luckiest man on the planet. She was smart, funny, and so beautiful. She was everything a man could want, and wife and more. Early on in the relationship, we discussed our past relationships. I told her all about the women that I dated in the past, even some of the casual hookups I had, just to be as transparent as possible. She told me that she had one long-term boyfriend and a couple of situations aside from that. But she didn't tell me that one of those situations was a friend with benefits situation with one of her coworkers. Had she told me that, I would have been a little less receptive to it. Looking back, it definitely seems like she was withholding a lot of information about it for me. I had only found out about him when I found out she was cheating on me with him. Everything was normal for the first few years of our relationship. I trusted her with my life, and the idea of her cheating on me never crossed my mind. Both of us worked full-time, and with my business, I was putting in about 80 hours a week. I wish that I had more time to spend with her instead of working, but things with the business were rocky, and I needed to tend to them. There were a lot of nights when I was coming home late in the evening. By the time I got back, my wife would already be asleep in bed. I was gone so much that it was difficult for me to notice the changes happening with her. After several months of working myself to the bone, things finally started calming down with my business, and I was able to take on a more normal schedule. I got my hours down to about 40 to 50 a week, and I was finally able to spend more time with my wife. Unfortunately, I hadn't realized that she was taking on extra projects at work. In my newfound spare time, I wanted to go on dates with her and surprise her with things. But she told me that she couldn't because she had meetings and things to attend in the evening. One day, she didn't tell me in the morning that she had anything scheduled later that evening. So I took it upon myself to schedule a surprise date for us. I figured I would have everything ready to go when she got in. So all she would have to do was change her clothes, and we would head off to a nice restaurant in town. I texted her about halfway through the day and gave her a little hint about what I had planned. She replied about an hour later, telling me that she thought it was a sweet gesture, but she had a surprise meeting that she was going to be in during the dinner reservation. It did strike me as a little strange that she had a surprise meeting. Her business was pretty well managed, and they didn't tend to have a lot of surprises come up. I canceled the reservation and told her that we would do it another time. She got home around 7:00 p.m. and went right to the shower. We both worked in physical offices outside of the house, but we had a spare bedroom that we converted into an office space so we could work from home. The following morning, my wife had a dentist checkup around 10:00, so she spent the first 2 hours of work in the office. When she left for the dentist, she didn't turn her computer off. I hadn't even noticed until I heard chiming coming from her desktop. It didn't bother me at first, but it started to draw my attention away from my work, so I decided to turn off her computer. I saw the messages popping up on the corner of the screen from a Slack channel. There were also messages from a coworker, whom I'll call Terry, about last night. I assumed it was the meeting that they were talking about right away, but a few messages in, I realized he was talking about something else. It seemed like my wife lied to me about the meeting and was really spending time with Terry. That immediately caught my attention, and I looked through their messages in the Slack channel to see what was going on. It was pretty clear that they were having an affair, and they were using the meetings as an excuse to be together. They were coworkers, so a lot of their messages were about work, but there was a switch in the messages where everything became very suggestive. They weren't being over-reviewed, severely sexual, but they were sending a lot of winky emojis and things like that. I looked Terry up online, and I found him pretty easily. He was giving the facade of being a perfect American family man. He had a wife and 2 kids, a great job, and a beautiful home. On top of that, he was cheating on his family with my wife. I did as much digging on the Slack channel as I could, then I checked her email. There, I saw exchanges that were a lot more graphic with pictures and videos of the two of them together. I was completely shocked by what I saw, even more so when I realized that my wife was the one who initiated everything. She sent him an email where she suggested that they get together again. She heard him talking to another coworker about an argument he was having with his wife, and she jumped on the opportunity to turn his head. She told him that she was feeling neglected in her relationship, and she needed to have that physical connection with someone. He was all for it. Through the beginning exchanges, I learned all about their past and how they had an FB situation going on before my wife met me. I compared the timeline that I put together from their messages to Terry's relationship with his wife and figured out that he was cheating on his wife with mine the entire time they'd been together. I felt sick to my stomach. I thought I knew my wife, but it was clear that I didn't. I was disgusted knowing that she would sleep with a married man, to begin with, then cheat on me with him again years later. There was no way that I was going to be able to stay with her after what I found. I was going to divorce her, and I was going to make her regret every decision that she made. But before doing that, I wanted to get back at her. Her office was having an annual party to celebrate the company's anniversary in a few weeks. It was something they did every year and spouses were invited to attend. They had a small award ceremony to offer a meaningless trophy and a small bonus to certain employees who had gone above and beyond. I knew that my wife was going to be getting one of those. She had been instrumental in landing a major client for the company, and she was going to be rewarded for that. However, I knew that she was sleeping with another employee in the office after hours, so I didn't think they would want to reward her for that. I played everything cool and pretended like I didn't know it was happening while we waited for the party. She tried to tell me that I didn't need to go when it got closer to the time, but I insisted on going to support her. I think it was clear that she didn't want me to be around Terry. The day finally came, and I was ready for what I was going to do. I knew a lot of her coworkers, and I mingled with them during the first part of the party. When the awards part came, I stood there and clapped just as everyone else did. My wife stood up and thanked their boss for giving her the award that he did. Once that was all over, I motioned to give a toast to everyone. Everybody knew that my wife won an award, so they probably thought I was going to give some much more speech about how proud I was of her. Instead, I congratulated my wife on the award and told her that it would probably be the last one she got from the company. Then I added the affair she was having with Terry and told everybody in the room that I had evidence and pictures of her in the office with him. There was a ruckus around me as I elaborated on what happened. Terry's wife was practically begging him to tell her that it wasn't true. He was just as shocked as my wife was, I told her. The security guards at the office actually ended up escorting me out of the building. My wife wasn't far behind me because she stormed out to confront me about what I did. She told me that I humiliated her in front of everyone she worked with and that she was done with me because of it. I just laughed at her and told her that I had pretty much just ended things with her, so it didn't matter if she was done with me. Terry and his wife ran out after, and his wife came to me and asked me to clarify what I was talking about. I told her everything I knew, and she slapped Terry on the face and went off. After that, I knew that the rumor about their affair was going to spread to the office like wildfire. With so many people talking, they would have to go to HR about it and have some kind of conversation. On top of that, I emailed her boss all of the evidence that I had. During the divorce hearings, I found out that my wife lost her job because I told her boss about the affair. I only found out about that because she was trying to get alimony from me because of it. My divorce attorney made sure that didn't happen though. I ended up keeping everything in the end, and I sold the house to move into a smaller place since it was just me. I had just been focusing on my business and trying to make sure that it is thriving before doing anything else. I've been a little hesitant to try getting back out there with dating again because I feel completely betrayed by what my wife did. Though I'm hoping sometime in the future, I'll be ready for it.